35 days remain until the noon hour on January 20th, when Donald Trump will raise his hand and swear the 35-word oath that will restore him to power. In an instant, military aides will slide away from President Joe Biden and towards Donald Trump's side with the launch codes inside the suitcases that carry them, known as the nuclear football. He will again be the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the world. He will be the American head of state, the head of government. And unlike all of his predecessors, he is coming back to power with a grant of immunity that makes him above the law. This is the warning. Donald Trump, in that first instant of power, holds more of it than all of his predecessors. He is well and truly an American Caesar. And for that reason, a chill is descending over America's newsrooms. A deep freeze is starting to set in. Let's survey the landscape. On the print side, there is Jeff Bezos, the capitulant owner of the Washington Post, doing everything he can to not fall further and further behind his rival Elon Musk in the race to explore space as a billionaire. The price he's willing to pay is the information you get. It will be sanitized and made nice. Trump likes the news nice. There's Patrick Chung, the billionaire owner of the Los Angeles Times, who is now interfering in the editorial process and the news gathering process on a daily basis. The LA Times isn't what it used to be. What it's become is the vanity project of its billionaire owner, who decides through omission and commission what it is you get to see. Paramount, CBS News, is soon to be owned by one of the richest men in the world, who has donated tens of millions of dollars to Donald Trump, Larry Ellison. Of course, the pretense of this will be that it's his son who runs the company. Sure, he does. And of course, there's NBC News. The parent company, Comcast, has decided to protect its $164 billion market capitalization from Donald Trump's retributions by packaging all of its cable assets and spinning them off into a form of outer darkness for $7 billion. Amongst those assets, which include the Golf Channel, which has an audience demographically that's completely oppositional to the MSNBC audience, is, of course, the liberal cable news stalwart. Now, MSNBC, the largest of those cable companies, has seen its ratings completely tank since Donald Trump was reelected. And the reason for that is the betrayal of trust through the capitulant acts of Joe and Mika, who more than any other of the capitulators have done so with a certain aplomb, a desperate one that reeks of fear. This is a huge moment when Joe Scarborough does this. And it's a huge moment when ABC News did this.
ABC News and their top anchor reaching a settlement now with President-elect Trump in his defamation suit. The news network will have to pay $15 million to Trump and an additional $1 million for Trump's legal fees. Both ABC and George Stephanopoulos also ordered to issue statements of regret as part of the deal.
Let's watch George Stephanopoulos on his Sunday show with Congresswoman Nancy Mace talking about what a jury found about Donald Trump regarding his misconduct and sexual abuse of E. Jean Carroll.
I'm asking you a question about why you endorse someone who's been found liable for rape. No, I'm questioning your political choices because you're supporting
me. You're
someone who's been found liable for rape. Actually, I'm not trying to.
You are. That's exactly.
You're not answering the question.
I think it's disgusting.
Well, you're welcome to say that, but you have to answer the question. Why are you supporting someone who's been found liable for rape?
I just answered your question.
What is the answer?
He was not found guilty in a criminal court of law.
They are afraid to come forward, as you said, because they are defamed by those who commit the rape. That's what Donald Trump has been found guilty of doing.
Donald Trump, to say the least, was not happy with this description, though the judge, in his comments, made clear that it was accurate, that it was a distinction without a difference. It was semantics. George Stephanopoulos understood this, and he went on Stephen Colbert, and he was defiant.
Trump sued me because I used the word rape, even though a judge said that's, in fact, what did happen. And in fact, we filed the motion to dismiss last week. Unfortunately, it now comes with the territory, but I'm not going to be cowed out of doing my job because of the threat of Donald Trump.
Here is the statement issued by ABC and George Stephanopoulos expressing regret. Now, let's be clear. George Stephanopoulos has not apologized. There is no doubt that this statement was forced upon George Stephanopoulos by the powers that be at the Walt Disney Company, maybe directed by Bob Iger himself. Who knows? The bottom line is George Stephanopoulos does not go out and say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. What he says in his statement, just through the use of his name along with the corporate brand, is one of regret. And then the company wrote a check to Donald Trump for $15 million. And here's why this matters. This will be the operating premise of America's newsrooms. Fear is in the air. And now a precedent has been set. It is not Donald Trump who is bended. It is the media protected by the First Amendment, brought to heel on an issue of semantics that they would have prevailed on in court. But for whatever reason, the news leadership at ABC News lacked the fortitude, the stoicism, the grit, and the toughness to assert their rights in an American court of law and to raise up the First Amendment as their sword and their shield and to say, no, we will not submit to the bullying, to the thuggery of the most powerful man in the world who has been accurately described, if not precisely described. The American media is being whipped and beaten into shape to cover the next 4 years in the way the administration wants to be covered. Donald Trump has steamrolled the journalistic ethic, just like he has steamrolled the Republican Party and the Democratic Party.
The media's tamed down a little bit. They're liking us much better now, I think. If they don't, we'll have to just take them on again, and we don't want to do that.
What's coming down the road is something that is beyond the imagination of most Americans, even most of the media assigned to cover it, because there is no frame of reference for the corruption, for the abuse, for the assertions of power, and the execution of actions that will be mind-boggling. Donald Trump has been very lucky with regard to his opponents. He requires, and the country demands in this moment, a tough, serious, focused opposition that is unintimidatable. 4 years from now, the country will be in crisis. The world will be much worse off than it is today. The most important quality in this moment is truth-telling and the toughness to tell it, because without it, it's not possible to know what's real. And in a world where it's impossible to know what is real and what is not, a man like Donald Trump can take power. And if that world continues in that direction, having taken power, Donald Trump can exercise it in ways that no American has ever witnessed and will have a hard time comprehending when it occurs. But 35 days from now, the American people are going to find out exactly what they voted for. It just is unlikely to be from a lot of the places that used to get their information and find out their news, because those places, run by some of the richest people in the world and some of the most powerful corporations on earth, are afraid of losing a nickel, and they're indifferent to the truth, and they lack the stamina to guard it and defend it. Mostly, their words of defiance are empty and hollow, but not here. Here at The Warning, we will tell you the truth. We will tell you the truth because in America, our republic requires the truth as nourishment. The political resistance that is to come must be steeped in toughness and resolve and a love of the truth. And more important, a conviction that it must be shared, it must be spread, and it must be told, particularly when it comes to the abuse of power by a man who promised to be a dictator on day one. This is The Warning. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning, and I invite you to subscribe on our Substack, on our YouTube channel. Follow us. Welcome to the community.